There comes a moment in your life when everything slows down, when the noise fades, the distractions lose their power, and you realize that the next 30 years of your life will depend entirely on what you do in the next 30 minutes. Not next month. Right now. Because this moment, this tiny window of time, carries the seed of your entire future. Most people don't get it. They chase validation instead of vision. They chase comfort instead of clarity. They spend years being manipulated by temporary emotions, temporary people, and temporary pleasures. And then they wake up one day asking, what do I feel? Empty. You see, Sinek once said, working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. That's the entire difference between a life that drains you and a life that drives you. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Most people never discover what they love because they're too busy chasing who they think will love them. They invest their energy into manipulative relationships, toxic hookups, fake connections that only exist to fill the silence inside them. And in the process, they lose their direction, their confidence, their sense of self. If you want the next 30 years of your life to look different, you have to start making different choices. Not louder ones, not faster ones, but wiser ones. Every time you allow someone to manipulate your emotions, you give away a small piece of your strength without realizing it. It happens quietly, almost invisibly, in the small moments. The text you keep waiting for, the apology that never comes, the attention you crave from someone who gives it only when it benefits them. You start to believe that their validation means something about your worth. If they come back, you're enough, and if they leave, you're not. That's how manipulation begins. Not with loud control, but with silent conditioning. They train your emotions to respond to their rhythm, and before you know it, your peace depends on their presence. You see, emotional manipulation is not always obvious. It doesn't always wear the mask of cruelty or aggression. Sometimes it looks like care. It looks like, I miss you, after days of silence. It sounds like, I didn't mean to hurt you, after they do it again and again. It's a form of control disguised as affection. The more you fall into that cycle, the more you forget who you were before you met them. The person who didn't need permission to feel loved. The person who didn't need approval to feel valuable. The dangerous part is that most people don't recognize when they're being manipulated because manipulation doesn't always break you. Sometimes it keeps you comfortable enough not to leave. It gives you crumbs of affection to keep you hooked, but never enough nourishment to make you feel secure. That's why it's powerful. It keeps you waiting. It makes you doubt your reality. It makes you think the problem is you. And that's exactly how you lose yourself. You start to edit your personality to keep them happy. You start to silence your needs to keep the peace. You start to ignore red flags just to hold on to moments that used to feel good. And in doing so, you trade long-term peace for temporary pleasure. The cost of that exchange is your identity. You begin to believe that love means tolerating emotional inconsistency, that connection means sacrificing your standards, that staying quiet means keeping the relationship. But that's emotional love, that's not dependency. When Sinek talks about leadership and relationships, he says the foundation of trust is consistency. Think about that. Consistency, not intensity. The same rule applies to love. It doesn't matter how passionately someone says they care if their actions don't match over time. Words can inspire you, but actions reveal intentions. And the people who manipulate you know this. They use language as a weapon and silence as control. They know that inconsistency breeds anxiety, and anxiety keeps you chasing certainty from them. That's how they making you desperate for the stability they keep taking away. But here's what you must understand. The people who play with your emotions are not more powerful than you. They're just more practiced at using your empathy against you. They've learned that kind hearts are easy to confuse because kindness assumes honesty. They know you'll see the good in them even when they show you the bad. And that's why they never change, because you keep forgiving what you should be walking away from. There comes a moment when you have to reclaim your emotional energy, when you stop trying to decode mixed signals and start recognizing them for what they are, distractions from your purpose. You are not meant to spend your life explaining your worth to someone who refuses to see it. The moment you stop reacting to their inconsistency is the moment you regain control. You stop being the puppet and become the observer. You start seeing patterns instead of making excuses. You start realizing that your peace is too expensive to be spent on temporary people. That's the shift, the transformation that changes everything. You stop asking, why are they treating me this way? And start asking, why am I allowing this? Because awareness is liberation. The second you understand that your emotions are your responsibility, manipulation loses its power. When you stop needing someone to validate you, you become unshakable. Imagine this: every message you don't respond to, every boundary you enforce, every moment you choose silence instead of reaction. That's you reclaiming yourself. That's you taking back every piece you gave away. You begin to see that the people who truly value you won't need to manipulate your emotions to keep you. They'll meet you, not confusion. They're with clarity. Now bring calm, not chaos. And they'll never make you question your worth because they recognize it. The next 30 years of your life depend on learning this one lesson. Temporary people should never have permanent influence. You can't let a moment of loneliness push you back into a cycle of emotional control. You can't let the illusion of connection keep you bound to confusion. You owe your future more than that. When you cut ties with manipulation, you don't just lose someone, you gain yourself. You gain clarity, you gain confidence, you gain freedom. You start focusing that energy inward, building habits, dreams, and relationships that align with your peace. You stop chasing approval and start chasing purpose. That's when everything shifts. You'll begin to see how much power you've had all along, the power to decide who has access to your emotions, the power to walk away from confusion, the power to choose peace over attention. It's not about being heartless, it's about being wise. It's about understanding that your heart is sacred ground and not everyone deserves to walk there. People will try to manipulate your emotions as long as you let them. But the day you stop giving them that permission is the day you begin to master your life. The next 30 years don't belong to those who played with your heart. They belong to the version of you that finally learned to protect it. And once you do, nothing and no one can ever take that power from you again. The relationships we form shape the trajectory of our lives in ways we often underestimate. Every conversation, every connection we make leaves an imprint on our emotional landscape. We often settle for relationships that are easy, comfortable, or familiar, mistaking them for meaningful connections. The problem is, comfort rarely drives growth, and familiarity rarely fuels purpose. If you want the next 30 years of your life to be fulfilling, you must choose relationships that challenge you, not ones that simply soothe you. Most people don't realize how much energy they give to relationships that drain them. It starts subtly, almost imperceptibly. A friend takes more than they give, a partner keeps you guessing, a colleague constantly demands attention but never offers support. Over time, the cumulative weight of these interactions chips away at your emotional resilience. You start feeling tired, frustrated, and anxious without understanding why. You justify it by telling yourself that people are complicated or that everyone has flaws. But the truth is, some people are simply incompatible with your path, and clinging to them only slows your progress. The key to transforming your life and understanding that not all connections deserve your time and energy. You need relationships that stretch you, push you beyond your comfort zone, and compel you to grow. These are the people who challenge your excuses, encourage your dreams, and hold you accountable when you falter. They don't allow you to stagnate in emotional or mental complacency. They see your potential and refuse to let you settle for less than what you can achieve. These relationships aren't always easy. They may provoke discomfort, force confrontation, and require honesty, but that discomfort is exactly what fuels transformation. Too often, we equate love and connection with ease. We cling to those who are consistent in their attention but inconsistent in their support. We stay where there's familiarity even if it limits our growth. We confuse validation with value and attention with alignment. But the truth is that growth demands a certain level of challenge, a certain level of accountability, and sometimes even confrontation. Without these elements, we may feel safe, but we remain stagnant. Simon Sinek often emphasizes the importance of the circle of safety. The idea that we should surround ourselves with people who create an environment where we feel secure enough to take risks, innovate, and grow. Relationships that challenge us are not meant to punish, they are meant to elevate. When you are in such relationships, you experience discomfort not as criticism, but as guidance. You begin to see where your blind spots are, where your habits limit you, and where your mindset holds you back. These relationships are mirrors, reflecting the truths you might otherwise ignore. Many people avoid challenging relationships because they fear conflict, rejection, or discomfort. They prefer to be liked rather than respected, to be understood rather than stretched. But that preference comes at a cost. It costs you growth, opportunity, and purpose. It keeps you surrounded by mirrors that flatter rather than reflect reality. It keeps you in echo chambers where your ideas, beliefs, and behaviors are never tested. Growth cannot occur in comfort zones. It requires engagement with people who push you to think, act, and feel differently. Choosing the right relationships also requires discernment. It's not about surrounding yourself with only those who agree with you or admire you. True growth comes from being around those who challenge your assumptions, question your motivations, and encourage you to operate from a higher standard. These individuals may be friends, colleagues, or even family members, but they all share one characteristic. They refuse to let you settle for mediocrity. They challenge you. They provoke you to step into the fullness of your potential. When you cultivate relationships that challenge you, you also cultivate self-respect. You stop seeking validation from those who cannot provide it. You stop excusing behavior that undermines your well-being. You stop compromising your standards for the sake of approval. In place of fear, you develop confidence. In place of insecurity, you develop clarity. In place of dependence, you develop autonomy. The energy that was once wasted on draining relationships is now redirected toward meaningful growth, productivity, and fulfillment. It's important to recognize that challenging relationships do not equate to toxic ones. A toxic relationship depletes, confuses, and demoralizes. A challenging relationship stretches, clarifies, and elevates. Toxicity is rooted in manipulation, deceit, or selfishness, whereas challenge is rooted in care, accountability, and vision. The difference lies in intention. If a relationship constantly leaves you doubting your worth or questioning your sanity, it's toxic. But if it leaves you questioning your limits, your habits, and your comfort zones, it's a catalyst for growth. Over time, the quality of your relationships directly reflects the quality of your life. If your circle encourages complacency, you will remain stagnant. If your circle fosters accountability, curiosity, and challenge, you will thrive. Your potential is multiplied by the people who refuse to let you settle, by the mentors who challenge your thinking, by the peers who push you to elevate your standards. Relationships are not just emotional support. They are catalysts for transformation. They determine how high you climb, how far you go, and how deeply you impact the world. Ultimately, surrounding yourself with people who challenge you is not a luxury, it's a necessity. The next 30 years of your life will not be defined by comfort, familiarity, or superficial connections. They will be defined by the people who encourage you to rise, the conversations that stretch your mind, and the relationships that refuse to let you coast through life. When you choose these kinds of relationships, you don't just survive. You thrive. You create an environment that nurtures growth, strengthens character, and aligns with your purpose. And once you experience the power of these relationships, you realize that challenging connections are not just beneficial, they are indispensable. Your future depends on the company you keep. Every choice you make about who is allowed in your circle shapes your growth, your mindset, and your capacity for fulfillment. By prioritizing relationships that challenge you rather than drain you, you reclaim your energy, elevate your purpose, and build a life defined not by comfort, but by strength, clarity, and meaning. Pain is one of the most misunderstood forces in life. From a young age, we are taught to avoid it, to deny it, as if simply turning away from discomfort could erase its presence. Yet the truth that pain is not an enemy is a guide, a teacher, a force that, when properly understood, can become one of the most powerful catalysts for growth. Every heartbreak, betrayal, failure, or disappointment carries with it a lesson, a key to unlocking resilience, understanding, and purpose. The problem is that most people allow pain to define them rather than refine them. They become prisoners of their suffering, replaying moments that hurt them, blaming others for their misfortune, and convincing themselves that they are victims of circumstance. But pain is not meant to trap you, it is meant to awaken you. From the earliest experiences of emotional hurt, we learn to protect ourselves. A harsh word from a parent, betrayal by a friend, a breakup that leaves the heart bruised. Each of these experiences teaches us caution. Caution is not inherently bad, but when it turns into fear, it becomes limiting. Fear of being hurt again, fear of vulnerability, fear of rejection keeps many people trapped in relationships, habits, and mindsets that no longer serve them. Pain has a way of shaping behavior subtly. It whispers that it is safer to conform, to avoid risk, to play small. And yet, if we listen more carefully, we can hear another message beneath the whispers, a message that calls us to grow, to rise, and to transform. The first step in turning pain into purpose is acknowledgement. Too often we try to rationalize or minimize what we feel. We tell ourselves that we are overreacting or that we should be strong enough to move on without reflection. But avoiding pain only prolongs its influence. A wound ignored festers, but a wound understood heals. When we allow ourselves to feel fully, to confront the hurt honestly, we gain clarity about its source of pain. Most importantly, its lesson. Every scar is a map of survival, and every heartbreak carries insight if we are willing to seek it. Pain also cultivates empathy. When we have endured suffering ourselves, we gain a deeper understanding of the struggles of others. This empathy, born from experience, allows us to connect with people in ways that are meaningful, authentic, and compassionate. The very thing that once broke us becomes the lens through which we see the world more clearly. Pain sharpens perception. It teaches sensitivity without weakness, insight without judgment, and resilience without arrogance. Those who have never suffered often cannot relate to the struggles of others, but those who have endured and reflected upon their pain can use it as a tool to uplift, guide, and inspire. Another critical aspect transforming pain into purpose is reframing. The circumstances that initially feel devastating often contain hidden opportunities. A failed relationship, for example, may reveal patterns of behavior that need attention. A career setback may expose skills or ambitions that were dormant. A period of loneliness may force introspection and self-discovery. Pain asks a question, what can you learn from this? How can this experience make you stronger, wiser, and more intentional? When we shift from seeing pain as punishment to seeing it as preparation, the entire narrative of life changes. Every difficulty becomes a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. Resilience is cultivated through repetition. The more we face our challenges, the more adept we become at navigating uncertainty, disappointment, and adversity. Pain teaches patience and perseverance. It shows that while we cannot always control the external world, we can control our response to it. Each time we endure hardship, reflect on it, and integrate its lessons, we strengthen our capacity to confront future challenges with greater composure and clarity. This process is gradual, but it is profound. Life's most meaningful accomplishments are rarely achieved without struggle, and life's deepest wisdom is rarely gained without discomfort. Sinek emphasizes the importance of starting with why, understanding the deeper purpose behind our actions and decisions. Pain often helps clarify that why. When we confront suffering, we begin to ask questions about what truly matters, what is worth protecting, what is worth pursuing, and who we are at our core. These reflections bring a sense of direction and intentionality that cannot be cultivated in the absence of difficulty. The very challenges we once wished to avoid become the source of clarity and vision, guiding us toward more meaningful work, healthier relationships, and greater personal integrity. Transforming pain into purpose also requires courage, the courage to face vulnerability, to accept discomfort, and to embrace the unknown. It demands that we resist the temptation to blame, to retreat, or to numb ourselves. True growth occurs when we confront our experiences head on, extract their lessons, and channel their energy into action. It is not enough to simply endure. We must also integrate and apply what we have learned. This courage, repeated over time, shapes character, builds wisdom, and strengthens the emotional muscles needed to navigate the complexities of life. Finally, pain teaches us the value of authenticity. When we have suffered, we recognize the fleeting nature of superficial approval and the importance of genuine connection. We learn to prioritize relationships, goals, and pursuits that align with our deepest values. Pain strips away illusions, forcing us to confront reality as it is rather than how we wish it to be. This honesty with ourselves is the foundation for living a purposeful, meaningful life. It allows us to act from alignment rather than fear, to pursue what matters with clarity and commitment, and to create a legacy rooted in intentionality rather than happenstance. Through acknowledgement, reflection, and reframing, resilience and courage, pain becomes a teacher, guiding us toward growth and purpose. It is a force that refines character, clarifies priorities, and strengthens resolve. Every challenge, every heartbreak, every failure contains within it the potential for transformation. Those who learn to embrace it, rather than resist it, discover that the very experiences that once seemed unbearable are the ones that prepare them for their most significant achievements, deepest fulfillment, and lasting impact. Pain, when approached with wisdom and intention, is never wasted. It becomes the foundation upon which a life of meaning, strength, and purpose is built. Courage is the cornerstone of every meaningful life. It is the invisible force that separates those who drew existence from those who intentionally create it. Most people spend their lives waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, or the perfect alignment of circumstances before they act. They convince themselves that one day, when everything feels safe, they will finally make the changes, take the risks, and step into the life they desire. But life doesn't wait. Life doesn't pause for weakness. Life rewards those who move with boldness, who embrace uncertainty, and who prioritize action over comfort. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of fear. It is the choice to move forward even when the path is unclear, even when the outcome is uncertain, and even when the heart is weary. The human tendency is to cling to familiarity. Comfort feels safe, predictable, and easy, but comfort, while tempting, is often a cage. It keeps people tethered to situationships and routines that no longer serve them. Many remain in manipulative relationships, toxic friendships, or unfulfilling careers simply because it is easier than facing the unknown. The mind rationalizes staying as security, while the heart knows deep down is stagnation. Courage disrupts this pattern. Courage allows you to step away from what drains you, to refuse relationships that diminish you, and to leave situations that stunt your growth. It requires trusting yourself enough to face the discomfort of change, knowing that every step into uncertainty is a step toward empowerment. Courage also manifests in emotional independence. Many of us seek validation externally, relying on the approval of others to determine our self-worth. We become vulnerable to manipulation, silent treatments, or inconsistent attention because we allow other people to control our emotional state. True courage begins when you reclaim this power. When you stop needing someone else's acknowledgement to feel worthy, you reclaim the freedom to make choices aligned with your values, not their whims. Courage gives you the strength to create boundaries and to protect your emotional energy. It teaches that solitude, when chosen deliberately, is far more empowering than dependence disguised as companionship. Sinek often emphasizes the importance of knowing your why, the deeper purpose that drives your decisions and actions. Courage and purpose are intertwined. When you are clear about your values, your mission, and your long-term vision, courage becomes the fuel that allows you to act consistently with that purpose. Every time you choose alignment over comfort, you reinforce your ability to live intentionally. You no longer drift through life reacting to circumstances or being swayed by manipulation. Instead, you respond with clarity and conviction. Courage empowers you to create a life that is defined by your choices rather than by the expectations and limitations imposed by others. Courage also requires vulnerability. It demands that you face uncertainty without knowing how it will resolve, that you expose your heart even when it might break, and that you risk rejection in pursuit of authenticity. Vulnerability is often mistaken for weakness, but it is one of the most courageous acts a person can perform. It is the willingness to show up fully, to embrace discomfort, and to pursue meaningful connection to ideas and ambitions even when there is no guarantee of safety. By practicing vulnerability, you develop resilience, the capacity to withstand setbacks, disappointment, and criticism without losing faith in yourself or your purpose. The next 30 years of your life will be defined by the choices you make today, and the choices you make are only as bold as your courage allows them to be. Courage is not about grand gestures. It is demonstrated in small, consistent acts. It is found in the decision to walk away from toxic attachments, in the commitment to pursue a dream despite doubt, in the refusal to let fear dictate your actions, and in the daily habit of choosing growth over comfort. Each act, though seemingly minor, compounds over time, creating momentum that propels you toward the life you vision. Moreover, courage transforms fear into clarity. Fear clouds judgment, obscures opportunity, and paralyzes action. But when you act courageously, fear becomes a signal rather than a barrier. It indicates that you are stepping into new territory, stretching your limits, and confronting the unknown, precisely where growth occurs. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you train your mind to approach challenges with confidence instead of hesitation. You cultivate resilience, patience, and determination. You learn that the obstacles that once seemed insurmountable are often the very experiences that equip you with the strength needed to thrive. Courage also allows you to define your relationships, your environment, and your legacy. It empowers you to leave behind manipulative relationships, superficial connections, and environments that do not nurture your growth. It motivates you to pursue people, places, and experiences that align with your purpose and values. It inspires you to take action in the face of uncertainty, to embrace opportunities even when the risk of failure exists, and to create impact that extends beyond your own life. By living courageously, you break free from the patterns of dependency and indecision, and you step into a life that is fully your own. Ultimately, courage is the force that bridges the gap between who you are and who you are capable of becoming. It is the willingness to face discomfort, confront fear, and take bold action in alignment with your purpose. It is the ability to leave behind what no longer serves you, to reclaim your power, and to shape your future intentionally. Courage is not a single act. It is a practice, a mindset, and a lifestyle. And it is the one quality that will determine the depth, impact, and fulfillment of the next 30 years of your life. By choosing courage over comfort, action over hesitation, and purpose over approval, you create the foundation for a life of meaning, resilience, and extraordinary fulfillment. Each step taken in courage compounds. Each choice in alignment strengthens your trajectory, and each moment of bravery builds the life you are meant to live. Without courage, potential remains dormant, dreams remain unfulfilled, and opportunities pass unnoticed. With courage, every risk becomes an investment in your growth, every challenge a lesson, and every decision a building block toward the extraordinary life that awaits you. So now, take a deep breath and look at the life you are living today. Ask yourself, are you letting comfort dictate your choices, or are you stepping into courage? Or are you holding on to temporary people of fleeting validation? Or are you surrounding yourself with relationships, habits, and purpose that truly elevate you? The truth is, the next 30 years of your life are not a distant dream. They begin the moment you choose to act, the moment you choose growth over fear, purpose over approval, and courage over comfort. It starts with a single step. Reclaim your emotional power, embrace discipline, surround yourself with people who challenge you, transform your pain to purpose, and choose courage even when it scares you. Every choice you make today compounds over time. Every small act of intention, honesty, and bravery shapes your destiny. You are the author of your story, and no one else gets to hold the pen. So don't wait another day to live the life you deserve. Make the decision now to stop giving away your power, to stop casing approval, and to start building a future that reflects your highest self. Stand up, step forward, and commit to being unapologetically intentional with your life. The next 30 years are waiting for you, and they will be extraordinary, but only if you have the courage to take charge today. Your future isn't given, it's created. Start now, claim it, and live it boldly.